A long time ago, in Denmark, a dreadful series of murders concerned the royal family. The king Hamlet had been found dead in the garden of the Elsinor's castle, where he lived with his family, his fascinating wife Gertrude and his son, called like his loved father Hamlet. When Hamlet found out that his father had died, probably after being bitten by a snake, he fell in a deep depression, which worsened when he discovered that his mother would have married Claudius, his paternal uncle. After the marriage, two guards and a close friend of Hamlet's, Horatio, warned him that an armed ghost during the night was used to roaming near the principal entrance for a few seconds before disappearing, and more important, that ghost was identical to his father. The young Hamlet waited anxiously until the night to see his father, and meanwhile a nobleman, Laertes, left the castle with the blessing of his father, that then went to his daughter, Ophelia, to advise her to stay away from Hamlet, whom, however, she had an extremely solid but secret relationship with Eve. That night, Hamlet, more curious than careful, followed his father's spirit, and when he finally stopped, the king's ghost told him that the real snake was his brother, who murdered him with a poison to conquer the throne and the queen's heart. Hamlet, astounded and enraged for what he had just heard, immediately swore on his word to revenge the soul of his dear father by murdering his uncle. Moreover, the prince didn't tell his dear friend Horatio the truth, because he didn't want to involve him too much in this situation. The following day, the governors, the new king, the queen, and the Ophelia's father, Polonius, wanted to understand how to make Hamlet happy again, as he used to be in the past. Therefore, they invited two university friends of his, but they weren't much successful. Anyway, they tried to cheer up Hamlet by telling him there was a theater company at the castle, invited by them. Unexpectedly, Hamlet lightened up, but not for the appreciated performance, but because he had an idea for figure out if the spirit was actually his father or some demon intentioned to make him fall into sin. But before Hamlet could do anything, Polonius, assisted by Claudius, decided to let Hamlet see Ophelia in order to understand if she was the origin of his pain. Walking slowly, Hamlet came into the white room and with deep voice began to speak, clutching in meanwhile a sharp dagger in his hand. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take the arm against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we hand the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is here too, to die, to sleep, persons to dream. There's the rub. After Hamlet's dark thoughts and gloomy doubts, Ophelia walked in the room. They had an argument, especially because the young prince was already nervous and also in the middle of the discussions. Hamlet almost managed to discover the Lord's plan. The uncle Claudius, watching him, started thinking that Hamlet had discovered even his murder, so he also began thinking of a solution. Late at night, Hamlet commenced his plan. His idea was to observe the king's reaction when the actors would have staged a murder committed by using with poison. The plan worked so much that when the actor was assassinated, the king suddenly stood up and stopped the show. At that moment, Hamlet was sure. Claudius, power-hungry, killed his brother, Hamlet, king of Denmark. After the performance, Hamlet's mother, to appease the king's fury, met his son in her room to talk with him. They argued so much that a scared voice behind an adorned curtain called for help. Hamlet, thinking he was the king, stabbed blindly the man behind the curtain, but uncovering the corpse, the prince found out that the man assassinated by his bloody knife was Polonius, Ophelia's father, was there to hear the conversation. For that action, the young man was immediately obliged to leave the castle and sail for England, while Hamlet and his friends were already in London. At the castle arrived, enraged, Laertes, Ophelia's brother, thinking that Claudius killed his father, and therefore he was determined on kill him. The situation shifted only when he learned the truth, and his bloodlust fell back on Hamlet. His hate increased when his sister, who had gone mad and hopefully sad for his father's death and her unhappy love, drowned herself. After months of pain shared with his brother, who had tried to heal her. After a few days arrived a letter from Hamlet and at Elsinore. It said he was coming back to Denmark. The missive was read only by Laerte and Claudius, who decided to plot against the prince. Both of them concurred to organize a friendly duel between Laertes and Hamlet, but the type of Laertes' foil would have been soaked in a deadly poison. Moreover, the king would have offered Hamlet a cup of wine with other poison to be sure of his death. Sadly, before the match, a Christian funeral had been celebrated, even if it was unusual, because the nobleman committed suicide. Casually, at the cemetery, there was even Hamlet that talked with an undertaker a while before. He waited, and when the prince understood who was the person in the coffin, his beautiful Ophelia, he stood up, and instantly Laertes attacked him. They fought, and when they were separated, Laertes challenged him to a duel, and Hamlet, with the eyes still drenched with tears, accepted the challenge and went away at a brisk pace. The following morning, in the main room of the castle, the duel was about to start, and everybody were ready. Everybody except Hamlet, that had something to say. "Sir, I have done you wrong, but pardoned, as you are a gentleman. I am satisfied in nature. I do receive your offered love like love, and will not wrong." After being reconciled, the duel began. Both of them were excellent and fencing, but was Hamlet the winner of the match, acclaimed by everyone, especially by the king, who, taking advantage of the moment, offered the poisoned cup of wine to the euphoric Hamlet. Anyhow, the young man refused the wine, which was drunk by the queen, as happy as the sun. The king was petrified, but Laertes was still angry and confused, and for what, without thinking, wounded Hamlet with the poisoned sword. "Have at you now!" The prince had been hit without the chance to defend himself. In pain, became fury and decided to attack Laertes. So a second duel began, and unfortunately Laertes, overwhelmed by Hamlet, was injured by his own deadly fall. During their fight, the queen fell, and with her last words relieved what killed her, the wine. Later, even Laertes fell, and, exhausted, admitted everything about the plan conspired by himself and the king. "I'm justly killed with mine own trickery. It is here, Hamlet, Hamlet, thou art slain, the king's to blame." Thereafter Claudius tried to escape, but was halted by Hamlet, who, out of his mind, took the cup with still a bit of poisoned wine and forced his mad uncle to drink it. The room was filled with corpses, and Hamlet, dying, walked in the center of the lounge and sitting on the ground. "Horatio, I'm dead." "Thou livest. Report me and my cause aright to the unsatisfied." "Oh, I died, but I do propose the election lights on Fortinbras." After his last this year, Hamlet, touching his wound, died. Fortinbras was shocked. The bloody story was terrifying, but there was no doubt. Hamlet fought for justice, and he had to be honored. Therefore, after the quick coronation of Fortinbras, the big funeral of Hamlet was celebrated, and he, covered in glory, will be remembered eternally, such as his deaths.